and our regular committee meetings. As you will notice, unfortunately our mayor is not here tonight. He is home really under the weather, so keep him in your prayers, please. Tonight we have, under our special meeting, we have 3 action items. One of them is a follow-up with the NC Local Government Commission. And I want to welcome some people that are here tonight. Sharon Edmonds, who is Director of the Fiscal Management for the Local Government Commission. Susan McClellan, who is the Senior Accounting and Financial Manager Advisor. David Irwin, who is Accounting and Fiscal Manager. And Coulter, who is Accounting and Fiscal Manager. We also have Donald Wimburn with us tonight, who is our Town Auditor, and Courtney Riddick, who is also with Donald Wimburn CPA firm. I'm going to ask Anne Marie, if she will, to kind of walk us through and give us a summary on the purpose of this discussion. So if you will.
I'm happy to, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening, and I'm sorry the mics aren't working tonight, so we're going to try to project extra loud for you. The town of Edenton recently went before the Local Government Commission on January 8th, and we had to have our application for the USDA loan to be approved by the commission. And the council and others are aware that during that meeting a number of questions were raised by commission members. There was a lot of frustration pointed at Edenton, but then later it was clarified that the anger and frustration wasn't solely directed at us, that the LGC is very concerned about municipalities and counties making sure that they're following all of the rules and regulations, and in particular the statutes that regulate the local control, the Fiscal Control Act. And after the commission ultimately voted approval for our debt, which we were grateful for, and afterwards I did some follow-up, and the council is well aware of the action items that I've been working on, and also worked with the newspaper, and they helped spread the word about the work that the town had done. But all of the response was coming from me, and so I felt that like it would be important, and I'm grateful that our friends from Raleigh made the long trip in, but if you could hear from them directly on what the commission's concerns were, and then also for them to share with you the work that the town staff has done to address the concerns. And so I think Sharon was going to come to the podium and speak first, and you can ask questions, and then there may be a need for you to hear from Donna and or Courtney as well.
Thank you, Anne Marie. And I'll try to talk loud enough. If I don't, somebody just wave at me. So thank you again for inviting us. Anne Marie introduced my staff that's here, so I won't do that again. And I do want to say that I am happy to answer questions as we go along, or you can save them all until the end of my prepared comments. It doesn't matter to me. I want this to be informative for you, so if you have questions, please go ahead and ask those. So before I get into any of the specifics about Edenton's circumstances, I just want to very quickly go through the process that a town has to go through in order to get debt approved. And some of you may be very familiar with this from Edenton's recent loan request, but I just want to make sure that we're all kind of understanding of the process, and that what Edenton went through was really nothing out of the ordinary, although it may have felt like that at some time during that meeting. So a town or a county makes application to the debt management side of the State and Local Government Finance Division, which I'm a part of. Gets the paperwork all in order and submits that to them, and then debt management lets fiscal management, which I'm the director of, know that unit of government wants to issue any debt. During this time, just kind of depends on what time of year it is, we make sure that the unit of government's audit has been reviewed, and if we have concerns that we see in that audit, we will send a letter to the town, which Edenton received such a letter based on their 2018 audit back in November. The letter details out our concerns, both financially and operational issues. And in your case, there were some concerns about the amount of fund balance available in the general fund, the interfund loans between the general fund and some of the other funds, and then some internal control findings. And a couple of the internal control findings were on repeat from 2017. The board responded with a very thorough and detailed response that we really appreciated. It's one of the best responses we've seen in a long time, so thank you for that. That letter was dated December 13th. When fiscal management becomes aware that a unit wants to issue debt and there's been a unit letter, I will often send our coach team, which is David and Ann, out for a visit. And the reason for this is not to be punitive or to try to draw attention to the shortcomings in the unit. It's really so that my staff can actually see how the unit is handling its challenges. And we have found that this is the most successful way to address the commission's concerns when there are findings in the audit. So, for example, if you have a finding that your bank reconciliations are not current, staff comes, they see that they have been caught up, and that there's a new process in place to make sure they stay caught up. That gives the commission a higher level of comfort, you know, that the right things are happening and that this won't be a problem going forward. So we look at that. We also look at the necessity of the project, the cost to the unit if the project does not go forward with the debt financing, and what other funding options you might have should the debt not be approved. So after we go through this entire process, the decision is made if the unit can go forward and be on the agenda or not. And we will tell units that, you know, that from time to time that it might be best if they wait, particularly if the project is not a matter of public health or, you know, extreme urgency or something like that. So we have, like I said, we've told units that it would be best for them to defer until they get another audit in that maybe has fewer findings, or you know, they have a little bit more time to see the effects of a tax increase or a sewer rate increase, and to see how that is influencing their finances. So all of this is the process that occurred when y'all decided to apply for your USDLM. We were aware of the rapid turnover that you experienced in the finance officer position. We were aware that the current finance officer had not been in place for the entire 2018 fiscal year, and that would have some bearing on the findings in the 2018 audit. Again, as I said earlier, the town did a great job of responding to our letter, we were comfortable that the town was doing what it needed to do to address the concerns. Also, the things that my staff observed on their visit back in, I believe that was the first part of December, the things they observed just confirmed what was in the letter, and so we were comfortable with the application moving forward. Again, every unit of government that's on the LGC's agenda each month has been through this process, and these are the ones that we are comfortable with moving forward to seek approval from the commission. There is a group of units that appear on our unit assistance list. I think there was some reference made to that in the LGC meeting. These are units that we are concerned about either their fiscal health or their operational health, or both. Some of these are in worse shape than others. Some of it is due to things that the unit maybe has not done quite correctly. Some of it's just due to economic circumstances and natural disasters. You know, we've got units down in the southeastern part of the state that are really struggling to recover after 2 hurricanes in 24 months. Some of the units have been on that list for a long time. And again, those are the ones that I think that their economic structure is just not sufficient to necessarily support their operations. Edenton is not on that list. Okay? So they are not on the unit assistance list. There was a mention that there were additional units that we are concerned about that don't quite rise to the level of being on the unit assistance list. And I believe there was some conversation about a number of 200 units. I'm not exactly sure what that number was referencing. There are, of course, additional units facing challenges. You know, North Carolina, as a state, has recovered from the Great Recession unevenly. We've also got a lot of small towns that have failing infrastructure, and you know, grant funding has all but disappeared to help repair and replace that infrastructure, and more units are having to come to the commission to borrow money. Some of these units that just fall outside of the purview of the unit assistance list will end up on the list if they don't change their ways or don't find some way to correct their deficiencies. Some of the units that are on the list will come off if they show improvement. It's not really an exact science who goes on this list. We do the best we can with the data that we have, but sometimes it's strictly based on what we know about the people that work at the unit, what we know about their economic circumstances, and about how they're approaching their issues. Primarily, again, due to aging infrastructure, the Commission at times sees applications from units that are in less than ideal shape, asking for approval for a loan that will help improve their efficiencies and improve their operation. And again, we're seeing this more because of the lack of available grant funds.
Can I ask you one quick question?
Sure.
Is a unit just a town, or is it what do you?
I'm sorry, it's a unit of government, so
So it could be a county
a town or a county or a water sewer authority, school, although schools really don't borrow.
Okay. So you're talking about a
Unit of
larger
government.
group than just.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. So again, we're seeing more applications from units that are facing challenges. Again, we don't put them forward on the agenda unless we feel comfortable that they've done what they need to do to, hopefully have a successful application. 3 years ago, another factor in all of this, we changed our processes to focus the Commission's time on those units with unit letters, spending more time reviewing the letters and the responses and less time reviewing the units that didn't get a unit letter. We also started requesting that somebody from the unit of government be present at the meeting to answer questions. And in Anne Marie's case, that was her earlier in the month, so. Also, we have, over the last 18 to 24 months, seen more units with internal control issues, not unlike what Edenton was facing. Some of the reasons we are seeing for that is the number of retirements in local government, especially in finance, with an insufficient supply of trained people coming along behind them. We're feeling that in Raleigh, they're feeling it in Charlotte, all over the state. It's not just the small towns, in the more rural areas, it's everywhere. An increased focus on audit quality has possibly increased the number of findings in an audit. And I'm not saying the auditors are not doing a good job, but it's just exactly the opposite. I think they're trying to do a better job of documenting what they're seeing. And so it may feel like you're getting more findings than you used to. That may be one reason.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is that because of the turnover in staff at these different units?
It could be. It also could be because the auditing standards for government have tightened up and they're getting ready to change again next year to be even more, I'm not sure what the word is I'm looking for. They're more strict than they used to be. And we've tried to focus more on improving audit quality. And again, this is an issue that's not unique to North Carolina. It's been an issue across the country where local government audits have not necessarily been of the quality that they should be. And so I think as an industry, the CPA profession is trying to do a better job with its government audits. As your finance officer, your auditor will I'm sure tell you, governmental financial reporting is getting more complicated by the day, it seems like. I sometimes think that GASB gets paid by the word based on the number of standards they continue to issue. And it is a struggle to keep up with. We struggle to keep up with it. I can imagine a small town staff would struggle to keep up with it. So all of this is cause for concern to the Commission. And as Anne Marie said, I do think a lot of the comments that were made were not necessarily directed at Edenton per se. You happened to be the unit in the room on the day that the frustration boiled over. Again, we would not have allowed Edenton to move forward on the agenda if we had not felt comfortable that you had done what you needed to do to address the issues. The coach team's been here. I am going to ask them to come back because I know that you're going to be coming back to the Commission at some point for another loan approval. And so I will ask the coach team to come back for at least one more visit. And I think I'm probably going to have to drag them here since they don't enjoy coming to this part of the state anymore. I'm joking, they love it here. So all I gotta do is say, go to Edenton and they'll be in the car. So we will continue to observe and just so we can confirm to the commission that our thoughts were right, that you are doing what you need to do. And that the next time you come before the commission, they will be more comfortable with the application than they apparently were. So in summary, Edenton has its challenges, just like a lot of small towns in North Carolina, and actually some of the not so small ones too, particularly in the eastern part of the state. My staff and I believe you have taken or are taking the appropriate steps to address your challenges. We are here to help you with anything that we can to make that happen. We want you to have a successful debt application when you come before the commission. And again, we will be following up just to make sure that that happens. And I don't have any reason to think that it won't.
Any other questions, Sharon, by chance?
I just wanted to report that USDA was able to go back to work today. And our loan has been on hold because we were waiting for a letter from USDA to the bank confirming that everything is fine. And I'm so grateful for the state director. He put our letter right at the top of the to-do list, and we confirmed this afternoon that everything is in order. The LGC has scheduled the loan closing for Friday, so we're appreciative of that.
Yeah, I think they were pretty busy in the debt management side of the house today because a lot of people got their orders. So everybody's been waiting on them to go back to it.
Well, thank you all for being here tonight. I understand you are staying with us tonight, so spend all those Raleigh dollars here. Certainly appreciate it. And thank you for your comments. I'm sure that'll go a long way with our constituents, make them feel more comfortable. I know we have, since we've seen the letters and the transactions between Anne Marie and your office. We're thankful that we got someone in the finance office that is here more than a year now.
Yeah.
That possibly understand
It makes a big difference.
We're very thankful for our auditors, our CPA group, especially since they're local. And I think when we were discussing that, that was one thing that Councilman Dixon said. If we have a problem, they can run right down here versus having someone in Winston-Salem that, couldn't do that. So we're very thankful to have the auditors that we have. And we look forward to not having to see you anymore. Except on a friendly basis when you want to come down and spend the weekend.
I'll see if I can arrange that. So yeah, I look forward to not having to come back.
Shannon, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate y'all being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, second item on our agenda tonight is the potential conflict of interest that y'all all saw in your packet. We're in the Edenton Bay Phase 1 Hardy Hill subdivision. And Anne Marie, I'm going to let you fill us in on that, even though you did a really good job here. I think you would like for us to, anything that actually comes out of this, you would like for us to maybe appoint Bud Powell to fill in your place as far as being the, I guess, interim town manager on that particular project. But if there's something you want to add to that, help yourself.
Sure, thank you. My husband and I live in the Hardest Hill subdivision of Edenton Bay, and that subdivision is serviced by a large septic system. We're not on individual septic. I think there are 5 or 6 houses, and we all share ownership into this large system. And that system has reached its useful life, and the homeowners association is looking at having to expand or use what I think is called a repair area that's set aside for future expansion. And since my husband and I own property there, it was brought to the town was contacted because the underground electric distribution system that provides electricity to that whole subdivision, it's likely that a portion of the existing underground is going to have to be relocated, and also a junction box. And that may or may not require funding from the town. It may be something the homeowners are responsible for. There has to be more research done into that. And so I contacted our town attorney because I was concerned about a potential conflict of interest. And he recommended that I step away from the project, that I not have anything to do with the project, and that the council appoint somebody to act as the town manager for that project. And I would recommend that you appoint Bud Powell, our purchasing agent. Bud is extremely skilled in coordinating and dealing and negotiating with contractors, vendors, homeowners, and I know he will do, a fine job, and that he also be authorized to deal directly with the town attorney, that he wouldn't have to ask me, can he call the town attorney and incur that legal expense. And then if there is action that is required by the town, Bud would report directly to you all, and then you would make a decision with me being totally apart, so that there could be no misunderstandings that perhaps I was looking out for my interest and not for the town's interest. So Hood recommended that if you agree to appoint Bud, that you actually make a motion and vote to approve him to act as the town manager for this project, and that he be authorized to deal with, not only with the town attorney, but he may need to contact an engineer so that he could get all the resources that he would need to help make the best informed decision or recommendation to you all, if it ends up that that's what's needed.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion for us to.
And I'll second.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor then say aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes. Thank you much. Item C on this agenda is the Destination Downtown board appointment. And we have been asked, and I saw she came in, we have been asked by the DDE Board of Directors to appoint Karen Riviera from Peoples, manager of Peoples. I did ask Anne Marie because I wasn't sure how this worked, if we had to do the interviews, because we interviewed so many, and thank goodness we don't. That's DDE makes a recommendation to us. So I will accept the motion that we appoint Karen.
So moved.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. You were the only one that didn't say anything, so I'm assuming there's no discussion on this.
Absolutely.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Thank you much. And ladies and gentlemen, that will end our regular meeting, and we will now go into committee meetings. And first on the committee agenda tonight is the administrative committee. And since I chair that, I'll just follow right up with that. Our first item is on social media and email marketing campaign. I am going to call on our former colleague, Councilman Bob Quinn, to introduce Tyler Broom, who is here with us tonight, who's going to present an outline of his proposal. So,
Will do.
Bob, help yourself.
Well, it's interesting, feels good to be looking down to it's an unusual position for me to be in. But I must say to you that I'm delighted for the opportunity to present Tyler Green. In a nutshell, or in a very small approach to this thing so you understand, in my mind, your actions tonight and its outcome actually reflect the most critical piece of Edenton's strategic communication plan. That plan was introduced in 2018. It was developed by Eccles and Vaughn and presented by Harris Vaughn. I feel like asking you, it's been so long, to raise your hand if you remember that. But it was a very nice presentation and a meaningful program. The objective was to develop and grow our population and economy, utilizing targeted email or social media marketing techniques. These are very proven methods for these types of approach. They're proven. They require very specific skills and disciplines for them to succeed. It's a growing area of expertise, as all of you know, I'm sure. And finding someone in our town that could meet those skills or that skill set, I refer to as extremely serendipitous. As you will see after you listen to Tyler for a few minutes, that it's obviously fortuitous that we could find him. He's highly experienced, technically prepared to manage such a successful program for our town. Anne Marie and I have met with him on numerous occasions, and each time we come away with a greater appreciation for his ability. His ability to communicate through this internet process. It's my feeling, and I feel that it's Anne Marie's also, that he would positively communicate why we consider Edenton as such a special community and give us a route to increase population and economic development. By concentrating on specific market targets, attracting retirees as well as all families of interest to discover the attractiveness of Edenton's quality of life. Tyler and his family, since coming here, I think it's about 3 years away, have developed an emotional contact or connection to our community. And we feel that it gives him a unique advantage in presenting Edenton to our potential market. Tyler founded his company, Left Foot Marketing, I love that name, in 2017, and since then has successfully helped businesses harness the power of the internet with creative and innovative solutions. Tyler and his wife, Alyssa, moved here from Iowa. I asked him to make this sentence, and he did, and then he said, parenthetically, back to it, Alyssa, Tyler and his wife, Alyssa, moved here from Iowa, parenthetically, of all places. And I thought, well, that's pretty interesting. He just told me that back home, the temperature was 53 below zero. I suspect he's happy to be here, cold as it may be. Whew.
53 below. I can't imagine.
Anyway, I am pleased to introduce Tyler Bean to tell us about his plan and develop a management and positive recruiting internet marketing initiative to bring people to Edenton Chilliwack. By the way, I found out that Tyler is currently finishing up his master's degree in theology from Regent University in Norfolk. So Tyler, you're up.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, members of the Council, for letting me join you tonight to discuss what my ideas would be for telling the story of Edenton. I do a lot of things, but at the core of what I believe I do is telling stories. Telling stories is the most powerful way of marketing. It's the way we connect with the people around us. Stories are compelling. And so I'm not a marketer, I'm really a storyteller. And I think that's really powerful for me because it informs the way I go about doing things. It's about building a connection and building a long-term relationship with potential customers and people all around you. As Bob said, I founded my company in 2017. My internet marketing journey began years before that. And I'm not going to bore you with the details, but my first business was called Two Left Feet Design. It was a digital design company. And that's why I have the left foot marketing. It's an ode to the very first thing I ever did on the internet. To give you a little bit of a history about us, my wife is, and we moved down here because my wife is the media pastor at Open Door Church. I remember when we first interviewed, or she first interviewed with Pastor Steve Mazzell. The first interview did not ask the question, what do you think you would do as a media pastor, or where do you think you'd make the biggest impact? The first question he asked her was, are you really sure you want to move to Edenton? We lived in what we thought was a small town at the time, about 70,000 people. And we had already done the interview, we'd been on the Town of Edenton website, and we were very interested in this opportunity. And my wife was actually interviewing at 2 churches at the time. One church here in Edenton, and the other church was in Vancouver, British Columbia. And she did a couple of interviews, and they invited us down. And so we were coming down, and our GPS took us off of the interstate about an hour and a half before we got to town. And we were like, well, we knew this place was in the country, okay. And then we went from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, and 2 lanes to roads with no lines in the middle. And we were like, wow, this place is really in the country. And we showed up, and we came in on Virginia Avenue, and we were staying at the Hampton Inn. And I remember as we turned left off of Virginia into the Hampton Inn, I turned to my wife and I said, this already feels like home. Hadn't met anybody, hadn't talked to anybody, hadn't had the interview. We didn't even know if she was going to get the job, but it felt right. And that was significant for us because I tell people we were gypsies for the first decade of our marriage. We had been in 9 places in 10 years. So for a place to genuinely feel like home was pretty significant for us. We moved here, she got the opportunity, we moved here, and then life has happened, and we have a son, and we're going to raise our family here. So we've put down roots, and we want to stay here for a long time. I am in digital marketing, and I wanted to start by answering the question, the simplest question, why is digital marketing important? Why is it that digital marketing is becoming the centerpiece of every marketing strategy for nearly every company, from the smallest solopreneur business to Fortune 500 companies? The reality is, as marketing dollars, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what market you're in, marketing dollars are shifting away from traditional places like TV and radio, and they're moving on more and more onto digital avenues. Why is that? I'd like to give you 3 basic answers to that question, and I'd like to highlight this by illustrating for you the hypothetical situation that if Edenton were to be marketing itself to potential retirees. How would we do it today versus how would we do it 20 years ago through traditional media channels? I hope that kind of illustrates for you how something like this would work. The first thing about this is digital marketing is completely data-driven. If you were to market 20 years ago to potential retirees, the process would be fairly simple. You'd pick a magazine or some sort of outlet, a radio station that would say that they have a lot of readers or listeners who are retirees. You take them at their word, you put together an ad campaign, you write an ad, you send it out, and you hope within 6 months to a year you have something to show for it. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And the problem was you never had clear data. You didn't know who was listening to it or who was watching it or what they were doing with it. With a digital marketing approach, it is 100% data-driven, and here's what I mean. And I apologize if I start to conjure up images of Big Brother here. But from a digital data perspective, a digital marketing perspective, when someone goes on one of the websites of my clients that I manage, I can track in real time how they got there, what pages they visited, how long they were on each page, whether they scrolled to the bottom of each page, if they clicked on a link, how long did they spend at the next page, what the average visit time is for any website. I can track in real time every piece of data. When I'm running an ad campaign for a client, I can click on which version of the ad they clicked, what keyword was attached to, what the demographic data is of the people who were interacting with my ads. And so every single thing that we do in a digital marketing campaign is 100% data driven. Nothing is being decided by the seat of our pants, what we think feels good or looks good. Everything has a real data point attached to it. The second thing is this. It allows us to do something called hyper-targeting. In that example, that hypothetical example, we would put together a magazine ad and we'd send it out, and if the magazine had 20,000 subscribers, what we would do is we'd hope that a small percentage of those subscribers in that magazine 20 years ago would look at that ad and see something in it they wanted to respond to. But the simple truth that we know about traditional advertising is 95 to 99% of people who see an ad aren't in a position to make a buying decision right away. So your only answer is to put that ad in front of them again and again and again, and that is a lot of money. With a digital marketing approach, what we're able to do is layer in multiple points of demographic data together to create a very clear and specific profile of the exact person that we are trying to reach. In this example of a retiree, we can go so deep and so granular as to say we only want to target people who are of the ages of 55 to 64, who are on Facebook, who live in the DC metro area, and who also like to play golf. And the value of that is twofold. One, when we are able to target that clearly, we know exactly what to say because we know exactly what they're looking for. And there's an old adage in copywriting that you want to enter the conversation going on in the mind of the person that you're speaking to. And so we can enter that conversation and have that real conversation with them. And the other thing it allows us to do is cut out the 95 to 99% of people who aren't actually interested in our ad. And we can be very clear about what we want and who we want to speak to. Because there's no point in wasting 95% of your resources when you don't have to. The third thing is that a digital marketing campaign is nearly infinitely customizable and scalable. And to give you a practical example, if 20 years ago you put out that magazine ad and it didn't hit, there's nothing you could do but start over from scratch with a different magazine. With a digital marketing approach, there's no such thing as starting over from scratch. Because you're getting real-time data, because everything is clear, your customer profile is clear, you can customize and move and scale on a whim, on a dime. For example, let's say we're running 2 ads today, and we have ads going out to people in New York City and in Washington, D.C. And we discover after a month of data that our Washington, D.C. ads are twice as effective as our New York ads. Well, we don't waste 6 more months struggling to make those New York ads work. We shift resources to the thing that's working with real-time information. And I hope I'm not giving you too much granular data, but what I want you to see here with these 3 ideas is that what digital marketing does at its core is it levels the playing field. No longer is the market captured by the biggest players with infinite marketing budgets. It makes anybody, from the smallest player to the biggest company, it puts them all on the same field. And the only thing that sets you apart is whether you are clear about who you're reaching and whether your message actually resonates. And if I can be so bold, what I would end with this morning, and I can take whatever questions you have here after I say this. The reason why I'm excited and interested in this opportunity is this. My story is Edenton's story, and Edenton's story is my story. My wife and I were looking for home when we visited here. And we found it the minute we showed up. The only regret that we have is that we didn't find this place sooner. And what I know from talking to many people who have moved from out of town just like us is that everybody feels the same way. The only problem that the city has is that not enough people know about it to discover the beauty and the incredible abundant life that Edenton can actually provide for people who have the opportunity to visit and live here. Questions?
Would you interface with our tourism director?
Absolutely.
And share, she would share what she's already doing with you, and you would enhance what she's already doing?
Absolutely. I mean, the beautiful thing about having something like this is there are multiple people who have the same goals, right? A rising tide lifts all ships. There's no point in duplicating what somebody else is doing well. And I'm a part of, and I follow all of their social media. They're doing a lot of things really well. The point of this is to find the gaps in what's already there and exploit the opportunities that those gaps present to us.
Quick question. So, and who would tell you what, like, you know, it's great to get 55 to 65-year-olds that play golf and are retiring, but, you know, we also, who's going to tell you what group? Because we also need to get 30-year-olds that
Yes.
are raising families.
Yes.
We don't want to become some
Absolutely.
aged place that doesn't have life and young people and all those things. I mean, we really need some young people in here.
You want people like me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
young families who can
Yeah.
be in this community for decades. 100%. And I use the example of retirees because it's a simple
I
and easy
understand,
thing
yeah.
to
I
explain.
mean, I'm in that group now, but I'm,
No. So what I would tell you is, the beauty about something like this being as customizable and as scalable as it is that when we can learn lessons with one group, and then we can apply those lessons directly to another group. So for example, if we know that people in New York City are really resonating to something in one demographic, we can make some basic assumptions and do some fairly cost-effective tests about another demographic in the same area. So it is infinitely scalable and customizable in the fact that we can take the same basic approach, and instead of creating a whole nother independent campaign on top of it, which is twice as expensive, we expand the scope a little bit, and it's not a whole bunch of extra resources because we already have the structure in place with one market, and we can expand that as needed. Does that answer your question?
yeah. I mean, and then do things add on to it? Like, I mean, you know, if you're targeting that market, then you target the houses that are available. I mean, all of that, does that sort of work into it too?
It does as much as you want it to, and I would say it does as much as the data would tell you it should.
Okay.
So what we're continually doing, something like this is what we call an actively managed campaign. It's not an autopilot thing, right? And so you're constantly looking at the numbers, and then you're constantly fiddling with the campaign, with the margins of it, to find new opportunities within that campaign. So you're constantly testing maybe slightly different markets. So maybe if we know the DC metro area is a really good area, we would find a compatible market in another area and expand there based on a really clear customer profile. And we can do that as much or as little as we want. It's all a question of resources and time and all of that.
Sounds great.
Sure, you would work quite closely with the Edenton partnership.
Yes, we want to make sure that, as Tyler said, no duplication,
Right.
but that we help each other and take advantage of resources. We spent several hours with Nancy recently, and if the council decides this is the road you want to go down, we would then invite Tyler to meet with Mallory and also with Wynn and Jennifer Harris with Destination Downtown.
Any other questions? You know, Tyler, while you were up there speaking, I don't want you to think I was being rude and playing on my phone. I was actually looking something up that I read this morning in our sister newspaper, the Daily Advance, about Currituck County. I don't know how many of you actually read the article, but just having the one tournament up in Asheville, the tourism director there was saying that they had spent $50,000 on advertising. The good part was that it brought more than 34 million people to look at their site. So,
Wow.
I mean, that's a lot of people. And so, and there's a lot other data in her comments that I thought were very interesting. So,
Just took 3 people 1 week, to stay there 1 week to pay for the cost.
yeah. And the other part of that was that, as you were saying, that I like, is you get it instantly, you know exactly, I mean, God forbid, I think we almost know what they're thinking. I had a friend of mine today that was telling me that him and his wife were talking about a specific subject last week, one night, and he said the next morning, he said, I promise you, neither one of us went and looked. And the next morning, it was on both our phones. He said, I'm convinced they can hear my thoughts.
Big brother.
But, you know, this is exactly what we have needed. I don't know of anyone that doesn't need the same exact thing, to be real honest. The more you get your name out, and the easier it is nowadays, as you were saying. If that magazine doesn't work, it doesn't work. And so I think this is a great opportunity for us. I will ask this committee how you would like to proceed with this. You want to put it on the full agenda for full discussion?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Well, we shall do that, and we thank you for your presentation. Appreciate you
I thank
being
Bob.
here.
Thank you, Bob.
Bob,
For finding him.
absolutely, thank you so much. We always know we can depend on you, and so thank you so much for what you've done here.
Thank you, Ty.
Yep, thank you, Tom.
The second item on our agenda is the sale of the Conger building. And Dan Marie and I had a conversation earlier today, and she was hoping she was going to hear from Mr. Glover's attorney. I don't know if you...
And I'm sorry, I said I would call you. You called me right at 5 o'clock, and I was down here meeting our guests, but I did hear from him. Do you want me to go ahead and do that report?
Sure.
Mr. Glover's attorney called me and said that he received a report from his client, from John Glover, that they believe that they have a path forward, that he's very encouraged, and that by the end of this week, they believe that they will have all of the details worked out within their group, within that business entity, to be able to say confidently and emphatically that they will be moving forward with the purchase of the building and the development of the brewery. And I told him that the council, he knew that council was meeting tonight, and I said that the council is likely going to want, if everything goes as you say, and you want to move forward, that the council is going to set deadlines. That it's been almost a year for the due diligence, and we understand that there will be 2 additional permits that need to be received, and Elizabeth is here, and she can give you a report on what will be required for those. But that I was practically, I was very confident that you all will want a contract, and in the contract to have these stipulated dates, and that you would be discussing all of that tonight, and I anticipated that action item would be put on the February 12th agenda, and that we need to move as quickly as possible, because this has been
Too long.
on the table for a very long time. And he said that they certainly understand the council's need and desire to set deadlines, and they want to move quickly as well.
Elizabeth, would you like to give us an update on what they've got to do?
What's a reasonable amount of time?
Well, and that's something
Yeah.
we're going to talk about after we
Okay.
hear her.
So, good evening to all of you. The first thing that they will need to do is request a variance from our flood ordinance from our Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment meets usually about the 3rd Monday of the month, but we can also kind of shift their schedule to suit and meet as needed. So if you were to enter into an agreement with Mr. Glover in February, by the end of March, we could hold that meeting. We'd have to advertise for a couple of weeks. And my understanding is they already have the information they need from the State Historic Preservation Office to submit to the Board of Adjustment to demonstrate that if they were to comply with our flood ordinance, that the building would no longer be a contributing historic structure. So that should be pretty straightforward. Anne Marie has said that their architect has indicated that they are looking at about a 6-month time span for the design of the renovations to the building. Our historic commission is only going to be looking at the exterior renovations. That would include any landscaping and outdoor seating area, and then anything done to the exterior of the building. So given that it's just the exterior, I'm thinking that probably a May timeline for the Historic Preservation Commission is what we should shoot for, with June also being available in case there's some reason that it might take a little longer to develop those plans. So that's the board timeline for review. Do y'all have any questions about that?
And we're good? Don't see anyone? Well, and, go ahead. Greg and I were talking about this the other day, and this past Friday morning, a week ago, as Anne Marie had in the packet, the mayor and I and Anne Marie met with Representative Goodwin, and after that meeting, we were talking about, we being the mayor and Anne Marie and I, were talking about, the deadlines, the timelines, and all this. And just to relay to you, the mayor mentioned that Mr. Glover has been working with his son-in-law for over 3.5 years now, I think he said, to put something together in Raleigh. So that just kind of fell in line with what we were asking, to go ahead, set some dates, and say, we really need this done by such and such a date, because everyone has sat up here and agreed that, I don't think any of us would have actually put together a contract in real estate as this one has been put together, without a contract being signed on dates of when Mr. Glover would like to close on the property. So after hearing what Elizabeth has had to say, I will ask the committee first, and then anyone else that wants to jump in, what is your pleasure as far as setting some timelines that we can carry to the full council, and try to agree on. Anne Marie, and as all of you know, this was voted on last March, and so we've been almost 11 months that Mr. Glover could have taken care of some of this due diligence, and it just hasn't happened. So I'd like to see us proceed, because that building is not getting any better every day that it sits there with no one in it. It's like any other building. It's going to go down, and we're the one that has to maintain it. So
I'd like to see him get with the Board of Adjustment on his flood variance by the end of March 31st. I think, was that adequate? Was that reasonable?
was
Elizabeth?
I'm sorry.
March 31st for
31st.
Board of Adjustments.
Sure.
And
To
then,
hold the meeting by that date? I'd hesitate for you to say, have an action by that date. I don't anticipate that they would need more than one meeting, but. what do you
that's,
think?
that's 2 months. Could we not do that in 2 months?
Well, if you reached an agreement in February,
A month and a half, yeah.
I think we could, yeah,
Is that reasonable?
yes.
So how about, when would you like to have a contract signed?
February.
By, oh, yeah.
That's got to come after, I'm not gonna make a meeting, but
Go ahead.
that's got to come after the meeting with the Board of Adjustments, is
Yes.
that correct?
Yeah.
I would think he has to have that variance too.
That's what I think too.
move
So we're
forward.
looking April, May,
May, yeah.
May, maybe May 15th,
What about June 1st? That's a-
June 1st,
Yeah.
June 1st.
If I might add, Steve, or Councilman, when I talked to Mr. Liggett, his attorney today, and I told him that previously Mr. Glover's architect had told us it would take him 6 months to do all the renderings, and he said, well, that's not good, that will not suit John's timetable, we've got to accelerate that. And so that gave me a good feeling, so I really think the timeline that Elizabeth set out with, have to apply by whatever the May Preservation Commission meeting is, because there could be a chance where the commission would need more information and would table their action until their June meeting, but definitely you could set a date for which their completed application has to be submitted to the Preservation Commission.
When you were saying June 1st, were you asking for a contract to be signed by June 1st?
Well, we gotta wait, I mean, I think that, yeah, I mean, I think
Go before the
maybe
commission.
July, or, I mean, that gives, I mean, if we, a lot of times these boards do table stuff and ask for more information, so I mean, that wouldn't be his
Is July
fault.
1st pushing it, Elizabeth?
Well, and we have moved, I know we have moved meetings for special reasons before.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know why we couldn't, if this has gotta move and gotta move forward, and y'all want a contract no later than, I would think we'd want a closing date by July 1, but, if we can't get it, we can't get it, but, I don't know why we can't move the meeting like we've done several times before,
We can do that.
okay?
Just as long as we have our advertising time, which for the Board of Adjustment is 2 weeks and the Preservation Commission is only 1 week.
Okay? So we can still shoot for July 1 and be completely done with this by July 1 of
July 1st, or closing.
closing, July 1st.
Could I ask, please,
Sure.
by June 30th, so we could.
June 30th. There you go.
Sharon Edmondson.
There you go,
not come
June
back.
30th.
If
Yep.
we get that money in the general fund,
Yep,
that will help very.
closed by June 30th. Is that
That's
good with you and good with you that we'll send that to full council to,
You have plenty of time.
okay? All right. Number 3 on the administrative is the Edenton Citizens Academy, as you saw in your packet. This was one of the recommendations in our strategic communication plan, is to establish a program to help educate the citizens about the town operations and interest for volunteers to serve on the different boards. Anne Marie has talked with the department heads. They have recommended that we start an Town of Edenton Citizens Academy. Excuse me. We've had one with our police department for 3 or 4 years now, I guess it's been at least. Captain Brown, thank you for being here tonight. I see in our notes that you and Chief King have helped design this program that looks like it's going to be appealing to our citizens. So, any questions or comments on how to send that on to the full council? Or
Send it on.
okay, all right, we shall do that. And number 4 is boards and commissions. Recently advertised for applications for boards and commissions, and Anne Marie said we have received several applications. Thank goodness. That doesn't normally happen. But it seems like the past couple of 3 years that has happened. I mean, it's gotten better. So she wanted to know when to set up the interviews. We want to do how many do you actually have applications? Do you know right off? If not, it's not.
4.
4.
So
4 planning
Yeah.
board.
Okay.
Are they all planning board?
I think they all put their, no, 1 was for Board of Adjustment and the 3 were for the planning.
Okay. Good deal. So you want to do 2 at the February regular meeting and then 2 at committee meeting?
Can you do all 4 at the same time?
Hey, that would be fine with me if you want to, but I would ask that we move the meeting maybe to 5:30 to,
Do we have enough time to do 4.5 hours?
well, even if we cut into
Okay.
more than that, we're fine. I mean, since we normally don't start until 6 o'clock anyhow. I mean, if that's okay with everyone, that we move the meeting up so we can go ahead and.
Next month, we'll get it.
Yeah, 5:30.
Okay, all right. Good deal. Well, we will do that then, set the meetings at 5:30, and hopefully all four of them can come. If they can't, we'll, let us know. Maybe we'll move slightly to 6 o'clock and.
How many vacancies do you have?
We have 2 vacancies on the planning board, and I believe we have 2 on the board of adjustment, a regular position and an alternate position.
All right, that concludes the administrative committee. Next committee up is the utilities committee, and that's chaired by Councilman Bond.
Thank you, sir. We've got 2 items on the agenda. The first one, utility billing system software upgrade. The town and the county are using the same utility billing system. We want to upgrade them ready to enhance the program. With the 2 of them using it, it will cost us something like $15,500. Am I right, Anne Marie? That's a piece or that's together?
That is our cost.
That's town cost.
Town's cost. And we will save a little bit of money, because we'll share training costs by
Okay.
doing it together with the county.
Sounds like a very good idea. Anybody else on the committee have anything to say about it?
I say we send it over to full council.
See, Steve, he read my mind, and we ain't got no telephone. Okay, can we get a second on that? We send that one on, Steve.
Okay.
Okay. Second item, water supply plan. I'm gonna ask, boss, will you go with that one for me, please?
Sure, I would be happy to. The state, the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality requires municipal and county water systems to periodically submit a water supply plan, and that is to ensure that you have the capacity to provide the water that your customers demand. The state recently changed the process, and we have to submit the update every year, and it's an online update. And so we enclosed in your packet a copy of the information that we would submit to the state, but the council is required to approve that plan before we submit it. So we're asking for you to review that, and then hopefully at the regular meeting in February, you would authorize us to submit the plan.
Thank you, boss. We're gonna send that on up to the council. Okay?
Sounds like a win.
All right.
Thank you so much. And the last committee to meet tonight is the Public Works Committee, and that is chaired by Councilman Stallings.
Thanks, Steve. First item on our agenda tonight is the speed humps and 4-way stop signs at East King Street and South Oakland Street. I think we've had one resident to complain about speed on Oakland Street, as I understand it, and the police chief is talking about borrowing some equipment from Elizabeth City to monitor the speed on that street and see what it is. I personally am strictly against speed humps. I don't like that. They're bad on your car. The 4-way stop sign I got no problem with, but speed humps are, I hate them. They're great if you're going into a parking lot or something of that nature to slow traffic down, but not on one of our thoroughfares. And I feel like that's one of our main thoroughfares with Oakham, Broad, and Graham Street. Yeah. So,
Were speed humps mentioned by a resident in that area? Okay.
I think that was mentioned by one of the residents.
They are bad on your car.
What?
They are bad.
They are. That is,
Extremely bad.
yeah.
All right.
Well, you had said there was something they were doing in Greenville, or it's not
Yes.
really a speed hump, but, or bump, but maybe more of a hump
Yeah.
instead of a bump?
And we're trying to get some information. The Wooten Company is going to send us some information on some new type of hump, and it's the good thing about it is it's not permanent, so you could move it around to try and calm traffic on streets without having to, you know, permanently install a bump. But what we would like to do is get that information for you, and then also ask the DOT traffic engineer to look at the four-way stop on King and Oakham. Somebody mentioned earlier today that would cause us to lose some parking on Oakham. I'm not sure on that 200 block of East King. I think there's enough room where the no parking zone already exists. But anyway, if you want to, we can go ahead and get a professional opinion on that, and then we'll get you the information on the speed humps.
And is it somebody do some kind of study? Because I mean, I think we need to, like what we did on Granville Street, we
Yeah.
studied it.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to, I mean, the study comes back, there's not a problem, we don't need to do anything, it comes back as a problem, we need to figure out a solution. So I would think study would be the first thing we need to do.
Absolutely.
And
I don't like speed bumps.
the police chief is aware of some equipment that I believe the city of Elizabeth City has. It's not like what we put out on Granville Street where it tells you, it flashes what your rate of speed is, because as Chief mentioned, people tend to slow down when they see that. So, but there's some other equipment that is not as visible, and I think you'll get a more honest assessment of what the conditions are. So if you're okay, we'll go ahead and start working on that.
Where would that four-way stop be at on, stop sign on South Oakland Street be at?
King Street is what they're
King
saying.
Street.
Intersection of King and South Oakland.
King Street and South Oakland.
I know at the last meeting, the mayor said he'd make the motion if he could. Because I think they come by his house.
Yeah.
Right, that's
Moving
between
along.
the 200 and 300 block of East King.
So we can go ahead and get the study started, but we'll send it on the full council to talk about it later. And the next one is the Adopt a Street program, the litter collection program. And I think the Adopt a Street program is a great thing. Some of the businesses that will adopt a street or something of that nature.
We're a civic organization taking over so many streets or one.
Absolutely.
Like an arterial street, like Granville or Oakham or.
It was ironic, I got 2 requests within a matter of days. One was from a business and one was from a civic group. You know, did we have a town adopt a street program? And I said, no, we didn't get one, so
This was city.
we found out about this city program. And we would be responsible for supplying the safety vests, the trash bags, and then the sticks that people use to pick up the trash.
So this would be like a Good Lions Club, Kiwanis Club project.
So Sam, if that's okay with you, we'll send it to the
Great.
full council.
Yeah.
That's all we have, Mayor.
All right, thank you, sir, and that's all we have tonight, and so we stand adjourned. Thanks.
Thank you.